Unofficially.
All right, good morning. Let's bring this meeting to order. My name is Michael Isaacson with the Health Department, calling to order the Ad hoc Opioid Settlement Fund Committee meeting for November 13th. The current time is 11:45. We do roll call, please.
Hayne. Hayne.
Hayne, present.
Mosser.
Present.
Russell. Strathman.
Strathman here.
Isaacson.
Present.
You have an in-person quorum.
All right, excellent. And I am expecting Coroner Russell. I don't know if he may be connecting shortly. And I don't know if now is an appropriate time if he has requested due to work obligations to participate remotely. Do I ask for that now or wait until okay. Any objection?
Put one on your desk. Okay.
Okay, sounds good. That makes sense to me. Can I call for a motion to approve the minutes from our October 5th meeting?
I motion. Strathman seconds.
Any objections? And Coroner Russell, have you joined us?
Yes, I have.
Okay, excellent. So now we do have a request for remote participation for Coroner Russell. Any objections? This is due to a work obligation. All right, thank you. I didn't see anyone signed up for public comment, and I don't see anyone here. All right, so let's move on to new business. So we had discussed at our previous meeting the internal process for managing requests for funding. So I think that the key thing that we've looked at, and I'll defer to legal counsel if I misspeak here, but the agreement does lay out very clearly what approved uses for this funding will be. So once we can discuss with the state's attorney's office and get approval from external counsel, put together just a simple form that would say, here's what the intent of the request is, what the budget request would be, and then specifically check off, just so we have it for our records, which areas in the approved uses this would apply to. And I think we have a good test here. So we talked about this a bit last time. I just want to see if there's anybody on the committee, any other ideas that anybody has.
So I don't have any ideas. I just want everybody to make sure to run it by legal first because we need a time to do so. So this way we could check to make sure that the language is correct for the resolution, that it fits, and then we're still going to turn it over to the attorneys at Myers and Flowers to also have a look at this since they're the ones who helped to negotiate the settlement. We want to be sure that we are utilizing this money for the proper way. So just build in time if you're going to ask for money so that we could do the proper legal review.
Great. So I'd recommend then for our process, if you can submit to myself and to State's Attorney Mosser, that will trigger that external review, and then we can make sure that everything's ready. What's an appropriate timeline would you suggest?
I would suggest 2 weeks.
Okay. Okay, great. And we'll send a form out then. Any other questions or comments? All right, great. And I think we have an excellent resolution to discuss. Sheriff Hayne, should I turn it over to you to talk about?
Sure, happy to take it. So as we discussed at Judicial and Public Safety and this committee, the Sheriff's Office hosts the lab that is the joint operation between the State's Attorney's Office, the Coroner's Office, and the Sheriff's Office. And this lab's primary focus is identification of controlled substances for criminal cases. But the main intent, of course, under this committee is for harm reduction and abatement. So one of the most important goals when we talk about the funding that comes from the opioid settlement is to note that we will be data sharing out of the lab. So the data sharing will go to the Coroner's Office, State's Attorney, and of course the Health Department, all for those harm reduction and abatement purposes. So as we decided to physically host them when we first opened up the lab, the sheriff's office decided we'll just pay for the infancy out of our budget. So at this point, as we close out fiscal year 23, I'm coming to the committee asking for recoupment of funds that are detailed in that last page on the resolution that we've incurred since the lab opened on June 5th of 2023. So that total has come to $103,284.77. So that's a lot of supplies, equipment, and the 2 lab technicians' salaries from that point in time.
Great. And then can we get a motion for this resolution?
I would move.
So would Corner Russell.
Thank you. We can continue discussion. So thank you. And I'll jump in and just say this is really valuable. And as we look at the intent of this funding, I think one key thing that we look at in the community is knowing where things are happening and having better actionable information. So that's been a struggle nationwide, statewide, as we say, okay, we can wait and see where overdoses are occurring and act when we see that. But as we continue to enhance what we're seeing from the lab, especially as new substances like xylazine come on the scene, I think it's even more important for us to be getting information from a public health perspective out to clinicians, helping to get information out to law enforcement, to emergency responders, et cetera. So I think this is really exciting. So thank you.
I'd also like to echo that to say that it's more than just where overdoses are happening, because if we're doing this in-house, I don't have to worry about trying to get statistics from 36 different police departments because we're testing the drugs. So we may see a spike in opiate-related drug arrests in certain areas, which means then on a proactive basis with the health department and the sheriff's department and the coroner's office, we can send resources out there to see what we could do to help with the individuals who are struggling with this need. And so the statistics that we're going to be able to get on this is going to be amazing. And the fact that we could use this for hopefully remediation also, to get groups like my collaborative diversion program to go out there to help individuals. I think we're going to be trendsetters here in King County.
Love it. Sure.
My question is simply budgetary. Is this going to be a renewing expense, a fixed expense, or is it going to be, I assume it's going to be renewing because of staff and supplies. So is this going to become part of the operating budget, or is it going to be a grant funded budget? Because I'm just worried about the grants, because they can waiver sometimes, where I feel is such a critical need for this. I think it's a wonderful program.
Yeah, there's really 3 different veins that will require from the specific funding for the lab purposes. One's going to be capital. So we're building out an area inside the sheriff's office for the lab to truly operate out of. The next one's going to be equipment. So there's going to be hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of real equipment that they're going to need to acquire to fill that lab space to be fully operational and functional. And that's the great time when we can go out to all of our municipal partners in surrounding counties and have them subscribe to use the sheriff's office lab. And then third, of course, is going to be payroll. And so right now we're just forecasting those 2 lab technicians are all we need. But if we get bigger and bigger and bigger, we may have to add some staff. So I see a lot of ebbs and flows that will have to come back quarterly is my guesstimate, and do another resolution just like this to recoup expenses as we grow and build it out to full fruition.
Hello, Corner Russell here too. May I add to that?
Please.
Yes, also with the equipment end, one of the things we're hoping for is, once the 3.1 million comes in from the feds, that we will be able to purchase some of that equipment that's needed. So it won't obviously come out of the either any of our budgets as far as our operating expenses.
Good point. Thank you.
Yes.
I was going to ask basically that same question, but when do we think it will actually happen that we get the whole program in? I mean, have you guys got a capital project set out already, or you're still in the early phases of that?
I'm sorry, what specifically? What the
So
entire lab?
the
would look like?
lab,
Is that what
well,
you're
so the
asking?
lab's going to grow. We're going to get equipment and capital and a lot more space. When's that really going to happen that we can say we have a full program and we're sharing with other counties and getting revenue and all those things.
I'll try and give you the best timeline I can. So we just
Yeah,
finished.
I'm gonna
the,
hold you to it.
I know you
Exactly
will.
to the day.
I know
Okay.
you will. We just finished the architectural rendering for the lab build out. The technician said, yes, this is exactly what we want it to look like. Then, of course, we have to go to bid to see what comes back from that. And then we'll go through the RFP selection process and get the construction company to do their work. And once usually all of that happens, that's a 6 to 9 month time frame before you're built out and into that space. Fortunately, it's all internal construction, so we're not throwing up a building. But yeah, September.
So a year, okay. That's valid.
You want my initials on that?
No. No.
Oh, that's true.
Exactly.
Yes.
And I remember what I want to remember anyway, so, no, thank you very much for that
course.
information.
Any other discussion on this item? Yes, Madam Chair.
And once again, just as a follow-up, because of the excellence of this opportunity, the health department is going to be impacted by this as well. So I'm looking forward to hearing your plans for the next step along this progress.
Absolutely.
Very good.
Definitely. And I think for
Coroner-
this funding, oh yeah, go ahead, Coroner Russell.
No, I'm sorry. I was just going to say that in addition to what we already planned, we've actually got some. I did a tour of Lake County's lab, and there's very much not what we plan on doing. There's just very minimal. But one thing that they do that also helps the county is they do all the testing for probation. So if anybody's on probation and they need to do a urine test or that kind of thing, you know, that's another angle that we can utilize that is being funded by our probation. So I think a lot of this will accelerate once we get that money in hand. And again, that all depends on if we can get a budget from our federal government and hopefully not have a government shutdown.
Very good. And I was just going to add from my perspective, I think with this, even though this is recurring funding, I think just like with Riverboat, as much as possible, we want, and I think it gets through to your question, Madam Chair, we don't want to load with too many operating expenses if it can be avoided, and how can we pilot? And I think there's certain things that you do need ongoing costs to support, but especially for the build out and being able to staff that build out. I just think this is a really strong initial move for us with this funding. Any other discussion? All right.
Haynes,
One quick question about point of order. Steve, should I abstain since this money's coming back to the sheriff's office?
Yes, please.
Okay, I'll abstain. Hey,
And I just would note too, I just would read the resolution title before you call the vote, just so it's clear.
You want me to? Okay, so we have a resolution approving opioid settlement revenue expenditures for forensic lab expenses and authorizing budget adjustment. Somebody's paid by the word here. I see this.
and then I have Mosser moved, Mosser moved, Russell seconded. Haynes, you're abstaining. Mosser,
Yes.
Russell,
Yes.
Strathman,
Yes.
Isaacson.
Yes.
Passes.
All right, excellent. Is there any other discussion that the committee needs to have right now? All right, and I don't believe there's a need for executive session. And I still don't see anybody signed up for public comment.
No.
So
I
thank
would
you. Oh,
move
yes,
to
ma'am.
Adjourn.
Okay, move to adjourn. Have a second. Sheriff Ing?